Where would we be without the moon? Since many thousands of years ago, we have been fascinated by the ever-mysterious orb that hangs over our night sky. It has been a source of solace and, more recently, a representation of scientific progress, a far goal that mankind could never reach. It's just always been there, steadily progressing through the lunar cycle. But what if something unexpectedly happened to our Earth-Moon system? Welcome to Z. What if the moon were to be thrown out of orbit is the astounding question we are addressing today. Do you require answers to the important queries? So why not join Z to see more videos like this one and ring the bell for more inspiring material? The questions surrounding the moon, our greatest natural satellite, have recently gained renewed interest thanks to the 2022 film Moonfall. However, a lot of people have specifically pondered how the moon manages to be suspended in the sky at all. Why can we always count on it to simply exist? Most of us likely never give the possibility of the moon falling out of the sky considerable thought as we go about our daily lives. That would be absurd. Unless it would? As with the rest of the solar system and the entire cosmos, the moon actually traces its own path through space, thanks to balance. The location of each planet, moon, star, rock, and speck of dust is heavily influenced by the force of gravity. For instance, in our solar system, the planets orbit at the distances from the sun that the sun's gravity has dictated over the course of billions of years. The Earth and the moon are in a position comparable to this one, except it involves a smaller system. Both bodies are affected by one another's gravitational pull, which holds them suspended in space at a specific distance apart. But it's not like this harmonious state remains static. In fact, astronomers are aware that the moon's orbit around Earth is changing over time. But unlike in Moonfall, the moon isn't moving in our direction. Instead, it is advancing away from us. According to calculations, the moon moves away from us by 1.48 inches every year, which is a relatively sluggish rate. However, even that difference will undoubtedly have a significant effect in the future over the length of millions or billions of years in space. Which just serves to highlight how much could alter if the moon were actually thrown out of its orbit. The ramifications on it, Earth, and the rest of the solar system may be profound even if it were to be moved by a few inches. And given enough time, a wandering moon could really find itself traveling through a completely other region of the cosmos. What would, however, happen to Earth's conditions first? Might a change in the moon cause catastrophe, or could humans easily adapt so that no harm results? The tides, which are controlled by the moon, would have the most effect on the ecology. The gravitational attraction of the moon on Earth's seas directly affects the tides, causing high and low tides all around the world map. In a recent video, we examined in more detail how a forthcoming wobble in the moon's orbit might potentially cause major disruptions on Earth in and around 2030. In light of that transient occurrence, it is thus plausible that a permanent change, even a minor, permanent change, could lead to long-term issues. Additionally, it would involve more than just a noticeable alteration in how the oceans functioned. Many aspects of the natural world are also guided in some way by the tide cycles. As waters move in and out along coastlines all throughout the world, animals learn to adapt to the predictable patterns of the sea. Actually, the moon is also responsible for other rhythms as well. It contributes to circadian rhythms in part because so many animals develop an instinctive sense of when to sleep and when to wake up thanks to the light it emits. Even if merely to aid in some of their hunts, nocturnal creatures can also benefit from the light. When considering the countless ways the moon influences nature, many scientists generally refer to circulunar cycles. For instance, it has been discovered that the migration of some species, such the European nightjar, is directly correlated with different phases of the lunar cycle. The dung beetle is arguably the most well-known example of an animal that lives its life in accordance with the moon. Despite not being the most glamorous species, dung beetles are well renowned for using the moon to help them find their way home. These connections from ocean tides to dung beetle commutes would not immediately break down if the moon changed its motion but continued to orbit the Earth. In this case, the moon would still be visible and continue to have an effect on the Earth. Therefore, it would be up to Earth to adapt, which it could certainly do over the course of a few million years. However, in the interim, the ecological disruption and probable animal kingdom disorientation may result in a variety of unforeseen problems. However, the real worry would arise if the moon's displacement caused it to either completely vanish, which would imply no more tides at all, and maybe no more dung beetles, or if it actually started to fall towards us. We're now discussing a doomsday that is completely unique. Ignore the absence of tides, we would encounter enormous, rising oceans as the moon got closer and closer to our Earth. Perhaps to the extent that, to our perspective, the waters within them would not even resemble seas. Our largest bodies of water may move substantially enough that the entire globe map is effectively redone. Naturally, before the moon even reached us for impact, this would result in widespread and unavoidable death and destruction. If it just dropped out of the sky, it could be over in a couple of hours. However, if the moon simply modified its course by a very small amount, spiraling toward us instead, then we could theoretically still be waiting years, decades, or even centuries before the actual crash happens. How would you feel if you were living in that era? Charting the moon's steady decline in vain and ominously scanning the sky each evening to see if it had become a little bit bigger beyond the horizon. Similar erratic seas and shifting lighting, however, in this scenario, years or even lives could pass before the moon collides with us. Not really a cheerful notion, do you think? What is a little more encouraging is that scientists think that this specific what-if situation should never occur in the real world. In truth, one of two events would have to occur for the moon to be thrown out of its orbit. In order for the moon to shift, either a large planet would have to collide with it, at which time we'd already have plenty of problems to deal with. Alternatively, any hypothetically highly developed extraterrestrial culture would need to have achieved planet-moving technology before employing it against humanity, which, at this moment, appears doubtful given the scant evidence for advanced ET civilizations that has been uncovered. So you may rest easy knowing that the moon won't be completely thrown out of its orbit anytime soon. Certainly, but very slowly, it is edging away from us. We are aware that its orbit does experience wobbles. However, the idea of the moon suddenly veering so drastically off course as to immediately endanger all life on Earth is much closer to science fiction than it is to reality. The answer to today's topic, however, does underscore how crucial it is that the balance of space be preserved. Because there would eventually be very nothing we could do to stop it from changing. We aren't even enough developed at this point to merely get in our spacecraft and try to escape a catastrophe. And even if we could, it would be difficult to conceive living somewhere else than the Earth's natural environment. So the next time you see the moon, maybe think about how grateful we should be that it is there exactly where we need it to be. How do you feel? Do you think we missed anything? Check out other additional ZE videos, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe or ring the bell to receive our most recent material.